Why, g'day friends, this is Amble Raven speaking and welcome to patch 14.4, and we are introducing you something that is new that has come across from the public test server and something that has been in the works for quite some time. Now, let me introduce you a new operation, a game mode that is fun and engaging for this event, for this patch. It's called Perilous Route. Perilous Route. Depends how you pronounce it. It is a 7-man div operation where you can have 7 of your friends group up together, if you will, I suppose, more or less. And I have to say that for what it's worth, it's actually pretty cool. But in this video, this is on the public test server. Now, I have to say that for this pre-recording, it was actually pretty interesting for what it's worth, what we have seen on this particular game mode, which is actually pretty interesting, I have to say, to tell you the truth. Now, for what it's worth, your goal and objective is basically that you have to protect a ship called the Duncan. Now, if you're familiar with operations, different game modes like convoy mode, airship mode, stuff like that, there are certain key objectives and stuff that you need to do. With that being said, if you think about an operation called Hermes, for example, think about a ship that you have to protect and escort to get across from one side of the objective to the other side. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yes. So basically, you're going through a certain route and direction with your group to protect the Duncan and make sure it gets to the other side. Now, as you notice that there's a whole bunch of ships coming out here, and it's actually pretty interesting. There has been some noticeable differences between the public test as well as the live server, and I'll go into that in more detail in a minute here. So, from what I've seen so far in this particular game mode, is that it's quite challenging. So, understand that it is important for your teammates and yourself to stay close to the Duncan as much as possible. Secondary warship builds are very, very handy and very useful for this sort of thing. If you got a cruiser or battleship developed and trained for that sort of thing, go for it. Go nuts. The cruiser I would recommend for the Germans on one side of things is like the Rhoda, and also another ship like the Aegir for the cruisers side of things. If you have that, it's pretty cool. The German battleships like the Pommern, the Ruprecht, is actually another thing to take into consideration here. Now, if you saw that error message or message that you just saw in my chat just a moment ago, that one there, notice that that's actually referring to drops and that sort of thing. It's actually referring to this drop that's actually located here, which is that little icon right there, okay? So don't worry about it too much if that's popping up in your game screen. Now, it does have a buff of sorts, but is it really recommended to get it? Not really. Apparently in this battle, which I'm about to show you here, that at some point throughout this battle we are told not to worry about it. So basically we're just going to go with the flow here and just enjoy ourselves. Now, it's important to focus fire on the targets as quick as possible and destroy the surveillance stations as quick as possible in this game mode. Well, at the time, I mean, like, it was actually a bit of a mixed understanding about how it works and everything like that, but destroying the forts, destroying the surveillance stations are actually pretty handy, which is pretty cool. For what it's worth, that in this game mode is that it's pretty challenging, which is pretty cool. And honestly, it's quite enjoyable to sit back, relax with your friends, and yeah, I think it's pretty cool overall. Just enjoying yourself, having a fun game mode to play, and it's a good change of pace from operations, operation flagships, and also other different game modes. Now, we're going through this buff intentionally to see what it is, and it's basically a buff that's been picked up, but does it actually tell you? No, it doesn't. So basically it says the buff has been picked up, but what is it, you know? Anyways, so we're getting back into the battle now, and as you can see that we've been told just now, don't run after those buffs anymore. You fall behind if you're not fast. So basically, well, don't get too far away from the Duncan. Okay, so here's your Duncan. That's the main warship to protect, and pretty much your objective is to make sure to keep the Duncan well protected. Now, as you approach to the main, end of the course that you're going through, there's going to be some sudden changes along the way. Along the way through this whole battle, though, is that you will have different ships doing different things. You have torpedo boats, you have destroyers, you have cruisers, you have battleships of any kind being thrown at you. There also will be convoy ships that will be moving away from you, and basically the way I see it, this whole game mode is more about bragging rights in terms of how much damage you can rack up. Now, it sounds good. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, for what it's worth, you can actually have a lot of memes with how much damage you do rack up in this game mode. Now, there is a buff in the middle here, which is coordinated fleet support. So this ability here is actually pretty handy. Keep in mind, though, that this ability is very handy to heal not only just the Duncan, but also your teammates as well too. So having this ability, which is pretty cool. And I know that the difference in terms of live server, they have made some improvements around that, which is overall sweet. Now, as you can see, the Duncan is pretty weak here. It is important to stay close to it and protect it. And if you actually go too far away from it, and if you lose the Duncan, well, it's game over. So pretty much your job is pretty much escort and protect the ship and kill the objectives at the same time. So I don't think that's too hard to ask, but usually that most of us would just probably ignore it for the first time and then just rush in and do our own thing. Well, this time around we have to do it a little bit different. So this is actually something that I feel that it actually brings back the player base in a different way, saying that, hey, be mindful of doing this and make sure that you actually do it correctly. Is the event fun and engaging? The answer is yes. I mean, like, this operation game mode was actually pretty decent, I have to say. For what it's worth, for this patch, I felt it was actually pretty different. I actually felt mixed at first on the public test server when I first played it, and for what it's worth, I was actually very happy about it. The funny thing about it was that I noticed they made a few changes, and a good example was those torpedo boats. You know, those little small boats that go pretty fast in the water and they can fire torps at you and stuff like that. Well, apparently something had to be done, had to be changed around it, and I think it was because of how fast they were going. But honestly, for what it's worth, after watching it firsthand and playing it firsthand on my comeback stream and talking with the viewers, it was actually pretty interesting to see how this game mode pans out. And it's actually pretty cool. I mean, like, it's actually something that I felt for the first time in ages that I was able to do something that's pretty decent overall, and I just loved it. You can score some great hits with citadels and also do a lot of torp beams on this. Now, you don't have to play battleships. You can play cruisers and destroyers as well too, even carriers. No submarines though. But I have to say, if you're playing an aircraft carrier, I think you spend more time spotting than actually doing some damage. But if your teammates are clever enough, which is pretty cool, that if you can focus fire on something at long range, you'll be able to kill your targets quickly from long distance range. Now, there are certain, like fleets and from different angles that you have to destroy. Some of them you can safely ignore. Some of them, well, you just have to go with the flow and just kill them on the spot. Now, I have to say that in this battle, all these fleets do randomly spawn everywhere. Now, some of these ships don't count in terms of the actual objective, is to pretty much make sure that you killed at least 7 ships when you get to the next completion part of this quest. So the Duncan reaches his objective, and here he is right now. So basically you've been told, win the final battle and ensure the command ship survives, and you have to kill 7 ships. Now that sounds easy, so pretty much you and your teammates now have to make a final stand. Now the idea is, at this point in time, that you'll be faced a bit of a tough situation where positioning is critical, and you have to make sure that you have you and your teammates placed near the Duncan in the best position as possible. And the Duncan is automatic. It will kite away, it will actually attack random objectives at will. Now the thing is that you can't control the Duncan. Alright, you can't control it, you can't tell it where to go or anything like that. It is situational. So with that being said, depending what ship you have, if you've got a secondary build warship or cruiser or battleship, use your secondaries to your advantage. If you've got long range torps, use that to your advantage as well too. I'm using the roof trick here because it's actually pretty fun to use, and at the same time that the Palmerin is quite tanky as well for this. Also, Aegir is actually being rumored to have been a quite solid warship for it to be as well, and also the Schroeder. There's a lot of ways that I can say about this operation that I have found a lot of cool things around it. Now, experimental warships, I have seen those in action for this one, and my general thought about it was that it's actually not a bad idea. It actually gives you a bit of a learning experience. But from what I've seen so far in this game mode, for Perilous Route, is actually great overall. It's a great experience. So it, as I said, it gives you an opportunity to take a break from different game modes that you've played for a long time. If this game mode, for example, were to return in a different way, where it came in as a bit of rotational basis, I actually would have welcomed it for what it's worth. But if it's like something to do with operation as such, well, a random operation, maybe. I mean, like, it's not a bad idea, but I just, like, it would be a permanent thing. I don't know. I wouldn't really encourage it. But at the same time, though, that I just said to myself that maybe it's a possibility, because the operations that we currently have in this game for World of Warships, we do need some new ones. We need some love and appreciation for that sort of thing. But don't forget that we also would love to have old operations that we haven't seen for a long time as well too. Like, for example, Operation Dynamo. We'll talk about that later another time. But for what it's worth, for Perilous Route, or Perilous Route, or Perilous Route, depending how you pronounce it, I have to say that for what it's worth, it's a great operation game mode. It is good. I mean, like, you can invite your friends and you can do a bit of bragging rights about how much damage you do, how much kills you have, and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's all about having fun. Keep in mind, as I said before, that if you want to alternate your coordinated fleet support cooldowns, remember you can stack them up together, but I would not blow it all in one hit. Coordination is key, and always keep your objective ship, the Duncan in this case, well protected. And that's pretty much it, and you can win this. So that's not too bad for what it's worth in this operation game mode, that I have rocked up over 200k damage. Wow, that's been a while since I've seen that happen for me, but it's actually something that I do appreciate it very much. So, for what it's worth, folks, I'm curious to see and hear about your thoughts about Perilous Route. Perilous Route. Tell us how you feel about it. I think it's pretty good. And this was recorded from the public test server, and we had a wonderful time by doing this at the time. So patch 14.4 is due to be out already. So folks, have fun at it, enjoy it, tell us more about your thoughts about this, and I'm sure that you will enjoy it just as much as I have. And yeah, actually, this is a beautiful, game mode all around, and wow, it actually goes in full detail about all the damage I have done there. But overall, folks, it is a wonderful game mode for you to check out, and definitely it is fun and engaging overall. So folks, take care, stay safe, enjoy it, and anchors away. See you around soon in the next video.